Visual covering London and the South East for public sector, mainly covering health, local authorities and central government. If I'll just skip on a couple of slides. One is you've got a picture of all our beautiful faces there, so we'll skip over that one on to the next one, something a bit more useful. So here's the agenda for the day. First of all, we're going to have an introduction from Matt Chase, who is a technical solution specialist at Microsoft, who's going to give us the Microsoft view of Windows 10. I'm going to do a quick introduction into Visual, in case people are not familiar with Visual as an organization and what we do. I'm then going to hand over for the bulk of the session to John Rysam and Brian Kane from our cloud infrastructure group here, and they're going to talk about why you want to consider upgrading to Windows 10, deployment considerations, how you would actually conduct the deployment, and of course touching on application compatibility and applications from other platforms, because there was a major release at Ignite a couple of weeks ago. At that point, I'll hand back to Matt, who will kind of wrap things up. And then we'll throw the floor open for any questions that you have, and we'll do our best to answer them. If we run out of time, we'll be provide you with everybody's contact details, so you can get in touch with us after the event. So, if I could hand over to Matt to kick off, we'll crack on with it.
Thanks, David. Can everyone hear me?
Yep. Yes.
Good. Excellent. Good start. So, first of all, thanks very much to my friends at Visual for letting me come and do a quick introduction, a bit of scene setting. So obviously my main job is to make sure I don't spoil everyone else's bits later on down the agenda by talking about everything in the introduction. But what I really wanted to say to everyone was that obviously it's really exciting times. We've got Windows 10 has been very much anticipated and talked about in the press. This is going to feel very different to other previous releases of Windows. Hence the reason why we've got some of these agenda items. The main thing is obviously just to make sure everyone's aware that this is going to be Windows as a service. So we're no longer going to have Windows as a big chunky release, followed by service packs at irregular intervals, followed by a future new version of Windows. This is going to be, Microsoft's take on a continuous, innovative release. So Windows as a service, which we'll come on to more on later on in the session, will provide a platform for continuous innovation throughout its lifespan. That means when we release the product at some point in summer, and I won't be held to any more dates other than that. There will be bits that won't be there at the start, and that's to be of no surprise. This is completely on purpose from Microsoft, so that we can concentrate on making sure that the bits we do have on launch are working as they should be and don't need a patch soon afterwards. So the innovations we've built, the investments we've been making as part of Windows as a Service around 4 areas, and we're mindful of that we've got the Y upgrade to Windows coming up immediately after this. I won't steal too much of that thunder, but security, we've invested heavily in security, so this will be the most secure version of Windows we've ever released. We would attest probably the most secure operating system released. We've got some great new announcements coming on devices. So the idea being that it doesn't matter what device you're using, you'll have a great experience. It's our motto at Microsoft that devices aren't mobile, it's people. So we're making the experience mobile to be made available to you on whatever device you happen to be using. And then finally, we've got some great announcements coming up around the app migration. So this is taking apps from other platforms and making them available on Windows. So that's all I really wanted to say. Is that this is definitely going to be a new look and feel to how you use and consume Windows going forward. On to that point, over to you, David.
Okay, lovely. Thanks, Matt. So I'll move on a slide. And I want to talk for a couple of minutes about Visual and the Visual approach and how that kind of relates to Windows 10. So I want to bring up a few points straight away. Visual is an organization that's been going for about 10 years. We're a Tier 1 Microsoft partner. And an important thing to note here is that we only deploy Microsoft technology, so we won't be dealing with sort of Amazon or Cisco or anybody else in the marketplace. And as a result of that, we are very much experts in Microsoft technology. We've been dealing with this now for 10 years, and we have gold competencies in a number of areas. And because of that, we've developed a very well-defined, proven deployment methodology. And as a result of that, for you as the end customer, that means that any deployment that we engage on is very cost-effective because we know what we're doing, we know where we want to go with it, and we know which resources to put in. So if you're thinking in terms of the life cycle of your enterprise agreement, you've invested a considerable amount of money in those licenses, we're reducing that time to realizing the value of those licenses. Another point that makes us rather unique is that we deploy across the whole of the Microsoft stack. So from an engagement standpoint, if you're looking for a partner to come on board and say implement a mobile and flexible working strategy, and I'll keep it end user computing for the minute, if you're looking for somebody to do that, we can come in and we can take on board the SharePoint workloads, Office 365 Exchange, the security pieces, the identity pieces, Active Directory, etc., etc., etc. So by being able to engage one single partner, we are able to effectively project manage that between the different product groups and get those products working together effectively and efficiently very quickly. And the third point is that we want to align to your business strategy. So we almost take where you want to get to in the end. We work with you to see how technology can underpin that strategy to make sure that you're going in the direction you want to go to. We don't try to force any unnatural directions upon you, so you're actually going in the direction you want to. And the end solution fits well with your business. So that's kind of the approach we like to take. The business itself is divided into two main areas. We have the services areas you can see on the right-hand side. And this is kind of the after the event. This is the support services, and this can be either proactive or it can be reactive. And we have a number of different offerings to take on the management of those workloads after the event. But what we're talking about really today is the left-hand side, which is the consulting part of our business. And the consulting part of our business is divided into two broad areas. We have our technical group, which is divided into a number of different practices. So we have business productivity, we have UC and messaging, unified communication messaging, cloud infrastructure, where John and Brian, who are joining us today, sit, and we have application development. So business productivity, we'll look at such things as SharePoint, UC and messaging, probably Office 365 and Skype for Business, probably the two most important ones. Cloud infrastructure, so that would cover Windows 10, and John is the practice manager for that. But he also looks after things like System Center as well, so any kind of infrastructure piece. And then we have our application development practice, which focused to a large extent on dynamic CRM, but we're also looking at developing some of our own individual applications as well. And a recent one that we've added to our portfolio is a room booking system based on Exchange and SharePoint, so it allows you to book the resources you may need for a particular meeting. On the other part of the consulting business is the business part of the business, if I can say that, and these concentrate on much larger transformational projects. So whereas with the technical side of the business, we're normally concentrating on deploying a single piece of technology, but on the business side, we're bringing together many different parts of technology to provide an overall transformational solution. So the main three areas that we're seeing currently in public sector are these three I've just put up on the screen, and I'll briefly touch on these. So the first one is about connected government. So as we see a general trend for people being out and about, being much more efficient, so I'm thinking perhaps social workers or people who work in your housing and benefits, out visiting people, it's about getting the right information to the right people at the right time. So this is all about business intelligence and managing that intelligence and surfacing that intelligence to the right people at the right time so they can do their job effectively on the road. The second group, the second transformational project, is our end user computing, and there's typically two broad brush approaches that we're seeing here. One is the introduction of mobile flexible working, and the second one is just the need to refresh and update the desktop. In either case, Windows 10 will form a fundamental part of that. But obviously when you introduce mobile flexible working, people have to continue to do their jobs in the way that they did their jobs before. So we have to make sure that the technology in place allows them to do their work from a library or at home or a coffee shop or another office, wherever they want to sit and do their work. And the last area is optimized service. So this is taking the view of a data center as being a place to provide the information and the applications to people out on the road. So in this kind of environment, we will be looking at, what are the best options around cloud, what are your best options around virtualization, and understanding what you want to achieve, whether it's all on premise, all in the cloud, or some kind of hybrid solution. So those are the customer-ready strategies that we focus on in our business practice. So on that note, I'll hand over to John now, who will go into a bit more detail, and we'll sort of kick off around the Windows 10 part.
Yeah, morning everyone. So thanks David for the introduction. So as David said, my name is John Ryson. I'm the Cloud Infrastructure Practice Manager at Visual. So I've essentially run a team of consultants that travel up and down the country implementing solutions based on Microsoft technology. And we're just going to go through some stuff today with one of our architects, Brian Kane, as well, to talk about. One of our first slides here is why would you upgrade to Windows 10? So we're going to go through a few bits and pieces around here, which are going to basically explain why you should, because obviously it's an impending release, and obviously what a lot of you guys on the call will be going through is you've gone through a lot of these upgrades before, so you may have gone through upgrades to Windows XP in the past, to Windows 7. Some of you may have tackled Windows 8 and Windows 8.1. We think that most people in the room would probably be on a Windows 7 platform now. So I think the first point that we got on the slide is around why we'd upgrade, which is the IT strategy. So I think Brian was going to talk a little bit about that first of all.
Yep. So I haven't even had a chance to introduce myself. So my name is Brian Kane, and I'm an enterprise architect at Visual. So yeah, as we talked about, a lot of this is around why would you even want to upgrade to Windows 10? What's the point? And largely it's to start with, I guess it's going to come down to your IT strategy. So as we've already mentioned, Windows 7 is out of extended support now. So it's moving into the sort of twilight years of its existence, and we think lots of organizations who didn't make the jump to Windows 8 or Windows 8.1 are probably still on Windows 7 at the moment, and so therefore Windows 10 is going to be really important to those kinds of organizations. So starting to think about the move from Windows 7 and thinking about the applications, the line of business applications, that sort of thing that perhaps might be running on the desktop at the moment, and thinking about, right, how can we get those across into the Windows 10 environment? Because then with Windows 10 we can start to take advantage much more of new features that are going to come out, because obviously with Windows 7 being out of extended support, new feature releases are not going to come on that platform now. We've still got security updates and that sort of thing, but new features are not going to be produced for Windows 7. So in order to take advantage of things such as cloud computing, really, Windows 10 is going to be the platform of choice. And so we need to sort of try and understand how we can move from either Windows 7 or a Windows 8 or 8.1 environment into a Windows 10 environment. And that comes down to strategy, really. How do we do that? What's the advantages of doing that? And hopefully we're going to come into some of those advantages as we run through the slides today. So mainstream support ended for Windows 7 just around about the beginning of this year, 13th of Feb. So, like we say, that's why it's critical now. So, in order to be on a supported platform for updates, but also feature updates, you need to start moving away from Windows 7, and that's what lots of our customers are talking to us about at the moment. I think it's fair to say that lots of organisations at this time frame in terms of the development cycle, people are starting to not consider 8 anymore and starting to think, well, actually, I'm just going to miss 8 and move straight to 10. So if you're already on 7 at the moment, there's an argument that says, well, you don't need to go via 8, you can just go straight to 10, and that's what lots of organisations are wanting to talk to us about at the moment. So, John, are you going to cover off some of the advantages in terms of one operating system and that sort of thing?
Yeah, so what Microsoft are doing now around the operating system is having that a single operating system across devices. So if anyone's seen some of the information that's been released from events such as Build, is the Microsoft Developer Conference, and also Ignite that have been run recently. So whether any of the people on the call have had the opportunity to go to the States or see some of the smaller condensed shows, because I think Build was sometime this week, the UK version, and they might have seen some of these announcements. Certainly, the one operating system now is looking to take any sort of device, but just having one operating system across it. And what that's going to give everyone really is that consistent experience. So when you come to writing applications, you can write applications across that platform. So whether it's a mobile device, a tablet, a laptop, even a big desktop or workstation, it doesn't actually matter. And certainly for Windows 10, what they've been demonstrating now, you've got such devices as a Raspberry Pi, can install Windows 10 on, and all the way up to the Surface Hub. So that just shows how that can work across all platforms. So that consistent operating system, and it's very much in line with the Microsoft One vision, which they're using and talking about. Did you want to talk about Continuum, Brian? Because that was something interesting.
Yeah, that's it. So when we talk about this one operating system working across all of the devices, all device types, then Windows 10's actually been written with new devices in mind as well. So as I'm sure we've all seen 2-in-1 devices being released. So obviously, Microsoft Surface is a good example of a 2-in-1 device, which can be a tablet or it can be a laptop. And the Continuum part of Windows 10, so it's a feature in Windows 10, allows the interface to change as you move between those two form factors. So as you're using the device as a laptop, then it works in a very traditional sort of standard Windows desktop kind of mode. We've got it's all optimized for a keyboard and a mouse, and you're able to work in a normal way. But then if you undock that device, so either you take it off from the keyboard or you pull it out from a docking station and move into the tablet form factor, the operating system automatically detects that and then changes the interface so that the user moves into a more touch-based interface. So that the expectation now is that you don't have a mouse, you probably don't have a keyboard, and you need to use the device in a more touch-orientated way. That allows the operating system detects that, switches the interface automatically, so that then you can use it in a touch way. When you're finished, you come back to your desk and you dock again, it detects it again and moves you back into that standard way of working again. So the ability to flip between different form factors that's built into the operating system is all driven by having this one operating system that works across many devices. So the interface is optimized to the kind of device that you're working on. So with regards to usability, John, I think you had some really good bits on that.
Yeah, so what I was going to do now is out and for those that maybe haven't seen what Windows 10 looks like, we can basically have a quick look that I hope everyone can see on the demo here. But basically, I'm running Windows 10 here on a Surface 3 Pro. So as we can see now, one of the first usability options, and anyone that's used or complained about the user interface in Windows 8 and Windows 8.1 can see that the start menu's back, which is good news for a lot of people. What also we've got as well now is obviously we've got the combination of applications now. So the modern applications can now be resized on the desktop, so you're not restricted to running a full-size application. So in this particular release, so this is one of the openly available insider previews that we've got here. One of these we've got is a full app is a web browser which is called Project Spartan. Which is going to be called Edge, I believe. Is that right, Brian?
Yeah, that's right. So Microsoft have branded it as Microsoft Edge. Yeah.
Yeah. So you can see here. So this is actually a modern application, but now we can properly resize that application. No problem with using that. And some of the features that we've got as well is we can make web notes as well. So you can actually just drop text onto live websites. And start writing notes and stuff like that. Some of the things that we can see. For the technical amongst you, you probably one of the things that I quite liked when I first saw it is obviously command prompts now can be actually size full screen. For those of you that are technical, that are getting into these things, that's actually a really good feature. Where before it was always just a small box corner of the screen. When you're in the middle of something, going through some command stuff, it's very nice to have that full screen. So that's just a nice feature that I quite enjoyed.
I understand that also that keyboard shortcuts now work in the command prompt, so you can do cut and paste with a keyboard shortcut.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really small thing, but just a really useful thing.
Yeah, sure. Okay, we'll go back to the presentation. Right. Another thing as well, what you're going to get as far as the usability experience as well is that the machine will boot directly to the desktop. So that's a really good. That's also a really good feature. Where before in Windows 8.1 you would go, or in Windows 8 you go to what was essentially the start menu, and you'd have to click a subsequent step to get onto the desktop. Which, a lot of people found as a bit of a hindrance to carry on working. If we move on to the next point, then we're going to talk about security. So a lot of things that have come up is people want to talk about obviously encryption of the devices, so certain security features. So BitLocker will carry on to be supported, and so that's also important. And we've done initial testing. You can easily migrate machines. So if you've got BitLocker encryption came around in Windows Vista, and certainly for a lot of organisations, they deployed that very quickly because that's it's good. It saves money. You don't have to rely on third-party software, and you can go on and carry on using that. So that will be continue to be used and supported within Windows 10 platform. Two-factor authentication is going to be a big security feature within the Windows 10 background. So what we're doing now in Windows 10 is moving away from just someone having a set of credentials and a password, having more of a two-factor authentication. And what you can do this with is actually the device that the user owns. So one of the features that's going to come around is that once you get a user that has a device, something like a mobile phone, the user will be able to use that as two-factor authentication to log on to their many devices. So what we're expecting, and what we see now, is that users just don't have one device anymore. They'll have a Windows phone, they'll have a tablet device, and they may also have a laptop or a desktop in their office. With proximity, you can use, equivalent to something like a smart card. You can use your Windows phone to basically unlock and start to use your devices, and it will use those over something like Bluetooth or Wi-Fi. So that's a really good security feature. the other features as well that was demoed at Ignite was Windows Hello. So that was a feature that allows you to log on using the camera on the face of the individual. So what that does, the technology behind that, it actually uses an infrared camera, and it takes features of the face, and then as soon as you step in front of that camera, it will automatically log you in to your machine in that way. So if everyone wants to go and have a look at that was certainly demonstrated in the keynote at Ignite, you can go onto Channel 9 and see a demonstration of that, which is really good. Other security features are in Windows 10 now. You can separate corporate and personal data. So the corporate and personal data is that someone can essentially get their own device. They can download their pictures and stuff like that that's personal to them. But any corporate data that gets consumed from corporate email or corporate data that are downloaded from their company SharePoint or file servers, all that data is separated. So when the user leaves that organisation or you want to change device, that data will separate, keeping the user happy that they've kept all their personal information, but also keeping abiding by the company security regulations of also having that corporate data moved off that machine. And another feature that's come through as well is application signing. So application signing will allow only signed application to run on a corporate device. So via policy, what you can do is say that I only require all applications that are signed. So these are applications that may be available in the Windows Store. So or it could be from the software vendor as well. So they could get their software signed, and that particular software would run. So if you enable that feature, what you're going to get is the reduce of malware threats and stuff, because a lot of these basically surface themselves in rogue applications essentially. So this is going to be a very good way to further protect corporate asset from outbreaks of malware.
So I suppose in terms of sort of ensuring the security of the enterprise, then we've got the ability there to really control the types of applications that can be installed on corporate devices.
Yeah.
So that's really important to a lot of organisations and all that. I think it's in terms of security also. I know that there's some enhancements that they've made in terms of the actual operating system itself. In that the operating system now sits off to the side a little bit, and it's in a very secure area of the build. So the interaction between the operating system and applications is very tightly governed. So in terms of sort of the enhanced security that's baked into the operating system, Windows 10 is a far superior product to those that have gone on before.
Going on to the last point of the slide, and this point we'll cover very quickly, and I'll understand why. So around the performance on what we're going to get. So Windows 10 has got the same hardware requirements as Windows 7 and Windows 8. So essentially, to do an upgrade makes what's happened before in previous versions. A lot of people have had to go through a hardware refresh hand in hand with an operating system refresh. But this now means that it's going to be very easy for people that are currently on Windows 7. We expect a lot of customers can make that jump to Windows 10 without a significant investment in necessarily changing the hardware, and you can still keep the hardware refresh cycle. So some customers are going to have that for something like every 3-4 years. Something like that for a hardware device. You're not necessarily going to need to change that if you start to adopt Windows 10 early.
So in terms of the accessibility of Windows 10, then for a lot of organisations, that's a really critical point, isn't it? It's going to make Windows 10 really accessible, because essentially it's just a software upgrade. There's no hardware requirement as such.
Exactly. Right. Next, we're going to talk about deployment considerations and what you're going to need to actually get Windows 10 deployed in your environment. So we can see, so we've got a lot of enterprise tools, and actually these tools have grown a little bit and they're very much matured as well for the ones that are existing. So some of the things we've got, so Windows deployment services, so that's basically been a cornerstone of doing network deployments for a long time. It's been embedded as a feature into the operating system. It will be carried on further into Windows Server 2016 and gives you the ability to install WIMS network and is used also as a component hand in hand with things like MDT and Configuration Manager to provide that network boot or Pixie boot part of any deployment solution that you may create within the environment to deploy the operating system. On the news of Windows 10 support, so last week and this week we've had releases for Configuration Manager of 2012 SP2 for the was previously the SP1 release to basically support Windows 10, both from a management perspective and from a deployment perspective. The only missing piece of the from that is actually the ADK. So the Windows ADK, which is the deployment toolkit, essentially, which contains stuff like Windows PE, user state migration tools, and the Windows imaging and configuration designer, which I'll talk about later. That will be released when Windows 10 is released, essentially. So, so you'll see that appear on your volume licensing sites on MSDN around the time of the release. And it's, what's happened in the past, it's usually happened, a week or 2 weeks before the full Windows 10 release comes out, because essentially it's based on the same kernel as Windows 10. Microsoft Deployment Toolkit. So currently you can deploy some of the Windows 10 releases on there. So the current version is 2013. I'd expect a new release going there, but it's nothing. I'm not seeing anything on any sort of releases as such yet. But the main thing is Windows System Center Configuration Manager. So this is a great step forward with Microsoft to give us deployment tools actually prior to release, or at release time, to actually help us to deploy the operating system in an enterprise manner, because it's something that something that has been sort of late to the party a lot of the times, where we're still waiting for the official releases. So it's really good now that we can get our hands on these tools very early and start to manage it and maintain it, so we can obviously deliver applications to Windows 10 devices. We can carry on doing software updates, so that will carry on and continue to protect your Windows 10 security and update releases. And then we can deploy the operating system as well. We'll go on to a few bits of those later. One of the new things, actually, feature of the ADK is the Windows Imaging and Configuration Designer. So what that's going to help with is it's going to help with actually doing enterprise customizations to your offline image. So that's your gold or reference image. And you make customizations. So a lot of these customizations that are going to take, that you're going to be able to do to either a Windows image or a running machine, is add applications to that build, do security settings, Wi-Fi and VPNs are going to be able to create it up front, email profiles already created, and adding of certificates as well. So this is something that traditionally in the past we've done sort of after the fact. We run it in the task sequence, and it requires a lot. It's very time consuming and takes a while to develop. within the task sequence, but now we can actually condense it into a single package or a number of packages within the Windows Imaging and Configuration Designer to go forward and do that. Okay. So now we're going to talk about the actual deployment and how that's going to work. So what we have now, and with we have a few new ways of deploying Windows 10, which are going to make this uptake, this Windows as a service that we talked about originally. It's going to make it very easy for you guys to adopt if you're on Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 8.1. So the traditional approach always, for those of you who've done it before, is the standard wipe and load. So this is format the disk or wipe the disk, and you basically reload an operating system. If you wanted to retain the personality or some of the user data that's put on and that was put onto your previous version of operating system, if you were keeping the hardware or even if you were swapping the hardware out, you used to have to use something like user state migration. So user state migration took a long time to set up. There's a lot of testing to do there. It was bring across. Some people would just create scripts, or some people would, say the user, we're about to upgrade your machine, please make sure you back everything up. And made doing deployments onerous and a fairly disruptive task. So wipe and load does have a place in Windows 10 because we're still going to need to provision new machines out of the box. So it certainly does have that. And when you want to provision machines, to make sure your BIOS is up to date, your machine's all firmware, and you want to load any necessary applications. So it does have a play. But the exciting feature that we've got now is actually enterprise class in place upgrades. So I don't know if you can see whether that task sequence there. So those of you familiar with Config Manager will know what a task sequence looks like. But that is actually an in-place task sequence. And those of you familiar with essentially a wipe and load, those task sequences and the number of steps are actually huge. And you've got a big scroll of lists of lots and lots of tasks and lots of phases to go through. So loading WinPE, wiping your disk, installing the operating system, and then going through a state restore phase, loading updates and all that stuff. So with the in-place upgrade, what it's going to do is do some prep. It's going to check for readiness. It's actually going to pre-stage the set of files that it's going to need there, and then it's just got a task which is upgrade Windows. So that's just one task within the operating system. And the big thing about that is, this is going to be very, very quick. And the great thing is about it, it's going to retain the data and the personalization around that upgrade, as opposed to a wipe and load where you've always got someone that says, I haven't got this now, I've been upgraded, I haven't got this application anymore, where have my pictures gone, all those sort of questions that you get asked in a normal deployment. So this is going to give us a lot more of an easy upgrade.
I think one of the things that sorry John, one of the things that they were saying as part of that in-place upgrade is if the upgrade comes across any particular issues along the way, it's not a case of you end up with a blue screen. It'll just roll you back to your previous operating system. So there's protection in place as part of the upgrade, so that if you do encounter any issues in the upgrade, you're not going to be left with a dead piece of kit at the end of it. It'll just roll you back to where you previously were.
Brian, did you want to talk a bit about provisioning?
Yeah, so I think this is one of the sort of the new deployment options, I suppose, and it's really going to help with organisations that are looking to do sort of particularly choose your own device as a strategy for their end users. So it's going to be really useful for those organisations that perhaps have geographically dispersed users, people out on the road, or perhaps people in other countries where they don't have localized IT support. Being able to provide them with with the ability just to go down to their local PC World and purchase an OEM device. They pick the device, whatever it is, they get an allowance, they get the device, and then then they sort of want to use that device as part of their working day. So provisioning allows us to take that device and then actually flip it from being an OEM device to being an enterprise. So it changes the Windows 10 version that's on there to be an enterprise version. It allows us to then manage the device, install particular applications. So effectively taking that OEM device that's come from PC World or somewhere like that, and then moving it into a fully managed enterprise device. That's what we're calling provisioning. And that's a new way to be able to deploy the enterprise desktop to remote users, or even I suppose users in the office as well. If they wanted to do that, have that scenario as well, then that's going to be a really interesting way of deploying the enterprise desktop. It's supposed to be quick. So the change from the operating system from a sort of a consumer-based operating system or consumer-based version of Windows 10 into an enterprise edition is a quick change. So it's not something that's going to be too onerous in terms of the user, and it can all be automated through the deployment tools as well. So that's going to be a really interesting way of deploying Windows 10 in the future, I think. So I think moving on to the application compatibility. So this is something that was announced as part of, I think it was part of Build. I'm getting conferences melting into one in my brain at the moment. So recently Microsoft announced that as part of Windows 10, they're going to support the running of applications that were originally developed for sort of iOS or Android apps to be able to run on Windows 10. Now that as a statement in itself is quite big. So some people have criticised Microsoft in terms of the number of applications that are available in the store. And what this capability means is that if an application is available in any of the 3 popular stores, then it will be able to work on Windows 10. So effectively, there's a recompilation of the app itself to allow it to work on Windows 10. But it's going to mean that in terms of application availability for Windows 10, whether we need to keep in mind what we mentioned earlier about Windows 10 being a standard operating system. Is going to work across all platforms. So whether that's a PC app or a tablet app or a phone app, we'll be able to get any application from any of these stores and make them work on Windows 10. So in terms of the availability of applications, Windows 10 has just suddenly exploded in terms of that availability. So that's a really exciting announcement, and one that I think is going to, it just takes away that issue that some people have mentioned about, the unavailability of apps in the Windows platform. That goes away now. It truly is a multi-platform operating system. So that's going to be really interesting to see how that works going forward, for sure. So I think we're about up to the time, aren't we?
Are we there, Brian? Is that all you and John wanted to cover? Okay, fantastic. Matt, can I just bring you back in? I know you're on you're out and about, but can I just bring you back in for your final thoughts? Is Matt still with us or not?
We just jump straight into the Q&A, can't we?
Okay.
Yeah. Let's jump into
okay.
the Q&A.
Oh, Grace, I don't know how you want to, whether you want to people flag that they want to ask a question and open up the voice, or you just want them to type it in. Grace, how would you like to run that?
That's fine. So I'll unmute everyone, and then people can shout out if they want to, or if not, they can type in the IM box.
Okay, fantastic. So please feel free.
We've got a question there from David. Will Windows just be deployed? So currently, we believe it will be deployed with both, and we haven't got any intel from Microsoft what that's going to be, but I think there'll be what will be referred to as, and this is just my opinion, and not the opinion of Visual, but a legacy browser, which will be an IE-like, and then Spartan would be what they would look to be moving forward with for those that need that backwards compatibility. Brian, have you got any more?
Yeah, I can take that question. I can take that. It's Matt here.
Okay,
Sorry, can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll be shipping. So for enterprises, we'll be giving enterprises the option to run IE11 or Spartan, which is now called Edge. For consumers, we'll be favouring Edge, but that can be changed as well by a setting. But for enterprises, there'll be a group policy. Okay.
Okay. Thanks, Matt. So we've got another question there around licensing. Will it be a free upgrade for enterprise? So this is an interesting point. This, I think, because Microsoft announced that they're offering a free upgrade from Windows 7 or Windows 8 or 8.1 to Windows 10 in the first year after deployment. But I think for an enterprise, providing you've got obviously an enterprise agreement with software assurance, then you would be covered with that upgrade anyway. So I think it's certainly a nice announcement from Microsoft in the consumer world, without a doubt. But for enterprises, most enterprises have got those enterprise agreements, software assurance. It's probably less significant in terms of an announcement, but it still makes the application, so the operating system available.
Thank you, Brian. So we've got another question here from Giovanni. So both Edge and IE11 can run together, or one or the other for enterprise?
So they can both run together.
Both run together.
Both. Yeah.
Nice simple answer. Thank you, Brian. Anyway,
what you're going to be prompted with is basically what would be the default browser. So obviously the user would be given a choice through there, but you could set with policy what your default would be, and then anything else that you would open. So obviously, if you had certain things that were legacy, you may want to choose your default as IE11 or vice versa.
Lovely, thank you. Any more questions before I finally hand back to Matt, who I think's rejoined us now? Okay, no problem at all. Let me just put this up. So here's everybody's contact details. If you want to get in touch with somebody afterwards or a question occurs later on, please feel free to get in touch with any one of us. Matt, are you there? Do you just want to sort of wrap up with your final thoughts?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, just to clarify the question around software assurance and enterprises. So yeah, it is intended to be free for everyone. That would include enterprise, but obviously there are going to be features that enterprise will use that are only available with those with software assurance. That's definitely not going to change. We've got some announcements coming up soon around the additions of Windows and what's happening with software assurance. So keep a lookout for those things. So hopefully that's made it clear. So I wanted to say thanks to the guys from Rouge. You did a really good job there explaining the main points that we're talking about internally within Microsoft. So yeah, I mean, closing would be to a bit of a call to action, which is to, if you haven't already, get sign up for Insider saying about after launch, and it'll be the first place to get hold of new features and functions before they come out by current branch for business or current branch. Install the do the in-place upgrade for any Windows 7 or Windows 8 machines you've got, and you'll hopefully find that most of the applications will work. Probably, in some cases, all of them will work. The main area for testing is web app, but you've got that problem anyway because as you recall, we announced earlier on in the year that from mid-January next year, the only supported version of Internet Explorer will be Internet Explorer 11. That's of course unless you're one of the 4 people still running Vista. So yeah, my call to action is register on Windows Insider, download the latest enterprise bits, deploy them in your enterprise and in-place upgrade, and get ready to go.
That's brilliant. Grace, we've had another couple of questions. Have we got a couple of minutes to go through these?
Let's make some time.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, the first one is there a minimum AD domain forest level for Windows 10?
Yeah, That one up. So not for just joining. I would say a Windows 10 machine to your actual environment. However, if you're using some of the actual features, and these will be features along with some of the services that we have, complementary back-end services. So something maybe around, obviously, if you want to use BitLocker with Windows 10, you're going to need a certain schema extensions, certain domain levels, all of those sort of things, and there may be other features that come through within there that will require it. But as far as just getting it onto your getting it and using it, you don't need anything as for a standard deployment. But if you were basically surfacing some of the higher end features, as more detail comes out, there may be some requirements. But to get you started, there's nothing that's going to stop you doing that main or.
I think we could probably make a tongue-in-cheek statement and say, well, nobody's going to be running 2003 functional level anymore, are they? Because they're all off 2003 now, and they're all at least at 2008 or above. That's a little bit tongue-in-cheek, I know, but certainly people should be getting to those most recent functional levels if possible. So if not, then really need to be concentrating on that and moving that along, as well as the client operating systems as well.
Okay, brilliant. And one final question there around test devices and how many we can install with the enterprise version.
I don't know. There's a limit here. I'm not too sure where the question's coming from, really, to be honest with you. But it's one of those where you can install the consumer preview at the moment. So that's not a problem. And I don't think you're limited on the number of devices that you can do that.
Okay, brilliant. Okay, that was I think that was our final question. So it just leaves me to say thank you very much for everybody taking the time to attend this morning. I hope you found that useful. Our contact details are there on the screen, so if you need anything further, then please don't hesitate to get in touch. Otherwise, thank you very much for your time.